Okay, so we are going to do a little tutorial here on how to change a blade in your AFC-50 knife block. Every knife block should look something like this. Now the spacers, these are the spacers, will be different depending on the size of your knife block. So here I have a 3/8 knife block, which is also a 9.5. You may have either or thicker. So first thing you want to do is take a note at the arrangement. So in this one, for example, you can see that all these spacers here, so these first 8 are the same size, but then there's one filler at the top. You want to take note of that. And then you also want to take note of the blade placement. Sometimes there's a filler blade in the bottom, sometimes there may not be. If you ever do see a filler blade in the bottom or the top, that's just a filler one to make the knife block more square. You don't actually need to replace that. So for the 9.5, for example, there is 9 spacers, but 8 blades. So you will need a couple tools. The first tool you'll need is just a Phillips head screwdriver. I would recommend getting a thicker head compared to a long and pointy one because that might strip these screws. So we're going to remove the screws from the big blade first. I've already removed this one just to speed it up. But there's nothing to this. You just want to unscrew it. And this will come out like this. You can set that aside. The big blade is very durable. You will rarely need to replace it. Now what you will need is a socket wrench or just a regular wrench. This is I believe it's a 10 mil wrench. Yes, it's a 10 mil wrench, which is around 3/8. And you'll just want to open up these top 2 bolts. You don't have to fully take them off with the wrench. As long as you loosen them, you can do the rest by hand. So that comes out. And this comes out. Okay, so now you have your top cover plate. So this one has the thumb screw on it with the sticker. You can set that aside. This is your actual top of the knife block. You can put that aside. And as you see here, we have our spacers and our blades. So that's the filler one I mentioned, and the rest of these are just spacers and blades. So I'm just gonna take everything apart here. How I would reassemble this is actually from the top to the bottom. So what I would do is I would take the top of the knife block, the top cover, put it on the top plate like that. You want to line up the holes, and I would put these 2 screws back in like so. Then what I would do is I would do this on a table, and I would rest these upon the edge. You want the thumb screw to hang off, but you want these 2 bolts to still be on the table, like so, just so it's sitting flush. If the thumb screw's still on the table, it's going to be like that. So you want the bolts to be sitting flush, like so. And then what I would do is I would just reassemble the knife block with the replacement blade. So if you have a filler blade, you can start by putting that in. And then you just build. So it would go blade, knife block, blade, spacer, blade, spacer, blade, and you would do this until the knife block is fully assembled. Like I said at the beginning, take note if there is a filler spacer at the top or the bottom, and also take note if there is a filler blade as well, because you do want to construct this the way it was, because these are made to sit square, and sometimes they need a filler in there. So they were square when they left the factory, and you want them to be square whenever you use them, because if you don't, then you'll have issues with your cuts. So I'm almost done here. I have one more blade left. And my last filler at the top. Notice how I put this together. You don't want to do this the opposite way. If you were to flip these blades around at all, it would not be the correct way. So we're going to take this handle back now, and we're going to put this handle in the cut hole here. And then you want to line these two holes up for the long bolts. Now once you feel that the bolts are touching, you want to grab the top, and right now I'll show you what I'm doing. I have my fingers on the big bolts, and I'm just going to flip this over like so. Now you might need to tweak this a little bit, but I got lucky here and this screw is already pulled in place. This one is also in place. And now I just need to tighten these. So another thing I will say before I tighten this, you want this top plate to be flush with the other top plate. Just because if this is tilted a bit, it will affect how it sits in the machine. So this is not level, this is level, so make sure that's level. And then you can tighten these bolts. Okay, those are all tight. Now back to the last step. We want to put our big blade back on. Remember, the cutting edge has to be against here. Now you know you've done this properly if when you put the big blade in, it lines up perfect. If the blade is sitting like that, for example, that means your knife block is crooked and you've gone wrong somewhere. So this is lined up perfectly right now, so that's how I know I've done this correctly. Now we just need to put these screws back in. One thing I will mention is that you want to tighten these down as much as you can, and I'll show you why in a second. If this big blade is not sitting underneath these small little blades, the potatoes will not cut properly. So in order for that to be, you need to tighten this down as much as you can. So now if I look from this angle, I'm not sure if I can get this on camera, you should be able to see that these small blades are slightly raised above this big blade, so it'll cut properly. And that is how you replace a blade on your knife block. If you do need replacement blades, you can just contact us directly and we can send some out. Thank you.